Christ Pres Cool Springs. Hope you're all doing okay there at home. It's the week after Easter, and we're going to try something new. And what we're going to try is what we're going to do, actually, is Joe and Melanie and I are going to post a video like this that features it's just some information from us. So there's a philosophical concept called the transcendentals. And what the transcendentals are beauty, truth, and goodness. And what makes those three things unique is they are unique to human beings. Human beings are the only part of creation that pursues those things intentionally. So we pursue truth, beauty, and goodness. We have an aesthetic sense. We have a sense of logic. We have a sense of ethic. And so what we thought we would do is that each week we would each offer one of those things. So I'm going to talk about something true today, and Joe is going to talk about something good, and Melanie's going to talk about something beautiful. Actually, Joe's going to go last so that's what we're going to do. So anyway, this is just a way of us staying in connection with you guys. We miss you. We talk about you all the time. We're eager to be back. But until that happens, we thought this might be a fun way to just stay in touch. So I'm going to go first, and this week I'm going to talk about something true. I'm going to focus on truth. And the thing that I wanted to talk about is our new upcoming sermon series. Originally, before the quarantine, we had this series that we were going to do that was kind of more of an apologetics. It was called Big Questions, and we were going to take some big apologetics questions and talk about them. And we just felt like, in this moment that we're in, there are some things that are just on people's minds that are affected in this quarantine and social distancing. The pandemic is affecting people's lives. And we decided to pivot. And so we're going to do a sermon series called The Consolation of Christ. And what it is a series of sermons, a 6-part series that is focused on what Jesus has to say about things that we're experiencing right now. So Paul Lim is going to talk. My wife just brought me a Sonic.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. She just brought me a Cherry Coke Zero. Man.
Joe, what's your go-to at Sonic?
Cherry slush with nerds.
Dude,
what?
Yes. Yeah. It's,
yep.
You can't do it often.
Yes, you can.
I stand corrected. Okay, so listen. That's really funny. So we're going to be focusing on the words of Christ about things that we are wrestling through. So Paul Lim is going to actually go first for all 3 locations, and he's going to talk about what Jesus has to say about death. Then we're going to talk about what Jesus has to say about anxiety or worry, what Jesus has to say about provision, which is going to talk about money and wealth and resources. We're going to talk about what Jesus has to say about suffering. And actually, during that sermon, y'all are going to get to meet our newest location pastor, Micah Edmondson, who's going to be preaching that sermon. That'll be his first one. And so all 3 locations are going to get to hear from Micah, which I'm pumped about. And then we're going to talk about what Jesus says in the storm, which is really kind of focused on what Jesus has to say and do about concerning natural disasters like pandemics and tornadoes and things like that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about what Jesus has to say about worship, and specifically the conversation with the woman at the well, where they have a conversation about where we worship, because right now we're worshiping remotely, and we felt like that would be a really good thing for us to talk about. So in the truth category, I'm really excited about this sermon series, and I'm underway in the study of things. And so looking forward to that.
Can I share a little bit about what we're doing for families during this sermon series?
Yeah.
Since a lot of you are worshiping all together as a family, probably in the living room or on the back deck, we wanted to especially equip parents to have conversations with their kids after each sermon. So as part of the Children's Bulletin download every week, you'll get like a little guide that has where you can read that week's story about Jesus in the Jesus Storybook Bible, and then some questions that you can talk about. Because these are big topics, and kids will be probably having questions about them. And this provides an awesome opportunity for you as parents to kind of lean into these difficult conversations with your kids. But we wanted to give you a jumping off point for that. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, hey, while you're at it, why don't you give us something that's related to beauty?
Yeah. So Russ sprung this on us like 30 minutes ago. Just so you guys know. And I remember
everything.
I work with professionals who are able to pivot and roll with things, and you're about to just see that on display. Go ahead, Melanie.
So one of the ways that I've kept kind of connected and grounded over the past month and a half has been spending as much time outside as I can in creation, because that for me is where I most experience God's beauty. And I read this poem the other day by Wendell Berry, the beloved Kentucky poet and writer, called The Peace of Wild Things. And it struck me, and it was so beautiful, and I wanted to read it. The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
I like that.
That is so good. That is so good. Man, that Wendell Berry.
He's a master of beauty.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. Oh man, that's if you're new to Wendell Berry, my personal favorite novel of his. He's written a series of novels that all take place in the same fictional town and that are all about the same families. It's different generations, but it's this Port William is the name of the town, and man, it's so good. But my personal favorite is the novel Hannah Coulter, which is Hannah Coulter is the narrator. She's a character in that town, and it's really a remarkable thing that a white man would write in the voice of this woman. White has nothing to do with it. That a man would write so poignantly in the voice of a woman. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And it's also, I think, a great introduction to his novels. But man, that poem, that is really, really, really good.
Yeah, it's been a great solace to me to be outside as much as possible. There's a little, I can run from my house to downtown Franklin, and there's this little path that goes by the river. And it just is the most peaceful. Being outside and being connected to God's grace through creation, I think is so important right now in terms of being connected to beauty.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Joe, you get to do goodness. Now, when we were talking about how we were defining and differentiating beauty from goodness, goodness is just, we want to give you something good. Something like whether it's a record or a book or a game or something that we've come across that we've just interacted with that we thought this is pretty great. So Joe, what do you got for us?
Okay. So we're probably all struggling with some boredom from time to time. And I got this video from Duncan Mock. So Duncan and his family spent hours on Easter making this like stop motion animation video out of Easter bunnies, and there's a basket, and it's called Easter Bunny and the Lost Sheep. And if you're looking for a good way to kill 3-4 hours, stop motion video for the win. Let me see if I can pull it up and if this will work. All right, here it is.
Here we go.
There you go.
Oh my goodness.
So good.
The talented Mock family.
I didn't know what was going to happen there. I was really worried for the lamb. And also, did you guys notice in the upper, whether it be the upper left-hand corner, there's a dog.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Dog stayed put the entire time.
Oh,
amazing.
So next week I'll be talking about how to train your dog to stay put for hours at a time.
Man. Well, we won't keep you Cool Springs, but we're going to check in with you every week during this quarantine and offer you some truth and some goodness and some beauty. We're looking forward to being back together with you. And if you want to, if you want to share anything with us to consider for the truth, beauty, or goodness categories, please go ahead and send it. But just know that we love you and we miss you. And this was a lot of fun. I'm so thankful for our church, and I'm so thankful for the team that I get to work with. We'll see you guys.